Papa Infidel Ben the Looney and viewers, as I mentioned in my previous video on Michael Bay, I don't think remakes of classic movies are a negative thing. Actually, I can understand the whole point of a remake, you know. You take a classic, well-loved film and retell its story, you know, kind of update it for a newer audience, you know. Now, that's not a bad thing. Now, hey, doing a remake can even help create awareness for the original movie that you just don't get from re-releasing it over and over and over again. Alright, sometimes a remake can work, like when the Coen brothers redid True Grit, or when Zack Snyder remade Dawn of the Dead. Hey, both movies were solid, both of the original films were solid movies back in their day, and the original Dawn of the Dead is my #1 favorite zombie movie of all time. But the remakes really worked in terms of kind of amping up the story and presenting the film to a new generation. Now sometimes, however, a remake is completely unnecessary. Like with all those horror movie remakes that we see coming out of Platinum Dunes on a regular basis. Now sometimes it's best to just leave a good thing alone. Now, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. One of my favorite movies of the 1980s is John Carpenter's cult classic Escape from New York. Okay? I really like this movie. This is one of those movies I can watch over and over and over again and just never get tired of, okay? The atmosphere is great, the music's great, and of course John Carpenter got a really good cast for this movie. Now, of course, whoever, I don't know if they really are going to go through with a remake, whoever they get to play Snake Plissken, whether it's Jason Statham or Tom Hardy or, you know, whoever. Obviously, they're not going to have the same screen presence as Kurt Russell, but no, a remake might be okay if it's put into the right hands. But see, that's the problem. Oftentimes, when a remake is up for consideration, it's not to help create awareness of the original film, and it's not to bring a creative and artistic vision to a classic movie. Okay, more often than not, I think a remake is always up for consideration because some power-tied douchebag in Hollywood just wants to make money off of, just wants to leech money off of the curious fans of the original. Let's see how they did it this time. And, leech money off of any idiot who doesn't know it's a remake. This movie looks good. You know, it's like, hey, let's just remake a cult flick and make a boatload of money. Okay? Clue doesn't need a remake as far as I'm concerned. Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street didn't need remakes, especially when they were probably done by idiots who were too young back in the heyday of slasher films to really get what made the very first movie work, and they think that, you know, you just need lots of blood and guts and sex and bad acting to make a horror movie. Okay? But then again, I've never been a big Friday the 13th fan. And then there are even cases where the remake is just pretty much the original movie with a newer look and a different cast, like with Psycho. Although I am curious about one thing. If you weren't going to do anything different with that film, why the hell did you remake it in the first place? Just asking. Okay, now there's the only other reason that Hollywood pumps out God knows how many remakes at a time is, well, that looked weird, is because they're not creative enough. Now look, I understand that there aren't enough popular novels, or comic books, or TV shows, or video games to adapt, and yes, I understand, not every single movie is gonna get a sequel. Best movie in the 90s as far as I'm concerned, by the way. But you cannot tell me with a straight face that there aren't any struggling screenwriters out there in Hollywood or anywhere else who might have a script sitting in their desk, in their desk drawer, collecting dust, that has a compelling story, is a little original, and it might work as a movie. You can't tell me that, because there may be, but a lot of people in Hollywood, I think, probably aren't interested in the story. Okay, they're interested in just rehashing the same crap, putting a different spin on it, and leeching money off moviegoers. Okay, they're interested in making blockbusters. Okay, well guess what? Not every single movie that you make is gonna be a blockbuster, nor should every single movie that you make be a blockbuster for that matter, okay? Now, there are some producers who actually do care about the movies they produce, like Lawrence Bender, and Luc Besson, and Martin Scorsese, and even Quentin Tarantino and the Weinstein brothers. But those kind of guys are so few and far between that it's unbelievable, okay? Now, thankfully, like I said earlier, there are cases where a remake is not so bad. Sometimes you get a remake that's actually okay, like with Halloween. Sometimes you get a remake that's actually 5-star gold, like with The Italian Job, Ocean's 11, The Mummy, Star Trek, and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Yes, I actually like Tim Burton's take on Willy Wonka more than the original. The original film actually kind of put me to sleep. I don't know, maybe it was because I was a kid when I saw it, but moving on. In other cases, you know, the remake kind of just waters down the original film, like with The Getaway and Assault on Precinct 13 and Get Carter, but they still work individually. Now that's the thing with remakes that some people don't get, okay, is which causes them to get butthurt over nothing. Nothing! Okay, a remake is not supposed to be the original. It's supposed to put a different spin on the original film, and it's supposed to work on its own. Sometimes it just doesn't. I've listed off enough examples that don't work. So as far as I'm concerned, remakes are not necessarily a bad thing, but they're not the only type of movie that Hollywood can be coming out with. In some cases, a remake is needed, some cases it's not. And by the way, more remakes are on the way, folks. RoboCop and another remake of The Mummy. But for the sake of individuality, let's just see if they can hold up by themselves. Let's just not judge them before we see them or try to compare them to their predecessors, okay? Can you do that? Does that sound good? Good.